welcome to the weekend wrap-up. I'm Jurnee Taylor. Our top story of the week, severe weather. We saw dozens of tornado warnings on Wednesday night, followed by heavy rains and flooding. Take a look at this video from several of our viewers. You can see what are now confirmed tornadoes in areas like Almyra and Lake City. The storms tore through those rural towns, leaving behind damage and power outages. And as soon as the threat of hail and tornadoes moved out, the floodwaters moved in. Cities and county officials spent the first part of the week prepping for what weather experts called a potentially historic event. And of course, we are in the middle of severe weather season, and being weather aware is crucial. Be sure to download the THV 11 app on your mobile devices. That's where you can find weather impact alerts, follow radar, and watch us live track severe weather even if your power goes out. It's available in the App Store and Google Play for free. Well, eastern Arkansas got the brunt of Wednesday's severe weather. Of all the damage we saw from those storms, it's possible that nobody got it worse than people in Lake City. That is where the National Weather Service confirmed an EF3 tornado. Carter Thweet shows us the damage and why the community says they feel blessed despite it all.
Crews here in Lake City, Arkansas, still tending to storm damage that took place on Wednesday night. People here at Riverside High School today telling me while the damage is devastating, the main thing to keep in mind is that no lives were lost.
I was scared because it was so close.
Kenneth Winford took shelter with his family as a likely tornado came a half-mile from his house on the outskirts of Lake City.
It turned due east and it came through here, and wiped out the part of the town.
Craighead County Sheriff Marty Boyd telling me they saw extensive damage to 15 structures in Lake City, many of those people's homes, not to mention all the downed trees and power lines, as well as a few buildings in nearby cities like Monette.
We have some total losses without a doubt. It's devastating for those people.
But Boyd says despite it all, it could have been worse. For one thing, the damage was only confined to the west part of Lake City, away from the town center. And rescue efforts that began right after the storm ensured that no lives were lost.
We did have some entrapment, after the tornado did hit residences. We were able to rescue everyone, probably within the hour. I think everyone was rescued, and fortunately no fatalities. We had about 6 injuries, but they were all considered minor for what the circumstances were.
So now the cleanup process begins. Crews manned Highway 18 Thursday cleaning up debris. And for those who lost property, it may be a while before things get back to normal, but it won't be for a lack of help from their neighbors.
We're a real close community, working together and sharing, helping each other.
We've actually had to turn some services away that we don't need right now. So it's a good place to be where you're having to turn down help. We appreciate it so much.
In Lake City, Carter Thweet, THV 11 News.
Well, the small town of Almyra was actually hit by 2 tornadoes, an EF2 and EF1, according to the Weather Service. Rebecca Brown takes us to Arkansas County to see more of the aftermath.
Families in Almyra sifting through what remains of their lives, grateful for their safety, but mourning the loss of so much as a tornado swept through the area.
You just think it's not going to come, and then it does.
Hearts are heavy in Almyra as the town recovers from Wednesday night's tornado, causing down power lines, trees uprooted, and destroying places generations have called home.
I remember when this shop was built, it's probably, like I said, 77, 78, and it's survived many a storm, but this one here got it.
Jim Coos devastated to see his shop destroyed, as it shares a special kind of love, he says, for everyone who's ever stepped foot inside.
Yeah, we do a little weights, and but we just mainly it's just a hangout for everybody to come to it. On the weekends, everybody come over, we cook up, hang out.
Dennis Kavanaugh with the National Weather Service says now what's left is to assess the damage and provide answers.
Part of it is documenting it for scientific purposes so that we can learn from past weather events, hopefully to issue better warnings in the future. The other part is part of our job is to document damage so that we can document the societal impacts for weather events as they happen across Arkansas over time.
Despite the destruction around her, Vicki Price says the real prize is they're alive.
Relieved that we didn't get it worse. I mean, everybody was safe, nobody was hurt, so feeling pretty good about that.
In the face of adversity, Koo says it's the tight-knit bonds that holds a community together.
Everybody's family around here. You know, when you grow up in a town about 180, 85 people, you know everybody here. So it's a small community, but they'll keep it going.
In Almyra, Rebecca Brown, THV 11 News.
Well, you can learn more about those storms as well as the flooding happening across the state on THV11.com. That's where you can also see pictures and videos from storms and also how to apply for assistance. Other major headlines from this week: the man accused of shooting and killing a woman outside of Park Plaza Mall is pleading not guilty. 18-year-old Abdel Rahman Ahmed Salam is charged with the January killing of Cynthia Gregory. Tuesday, he and his lawyers entered the not guilty plea on grounds of mental disease or defect. He's scheduled for a mental evaluation, and we're expecting an update on the results in early August. The longest standing inmate on Arkansas's death row, Bruce Ward, has died in state prison. The Department of Corrections says he died of natural causes yesterday. At Varner Supermax, Ward was convicted of killing 18-year-old Rebecca Doss in 1989. He avoided execution in 2017 after his lawyers argued he was mentally unfit and never properly evaluated. And a federal judge says an Arkansas law that required social media companies to verify the ages of users is unconstitutional. U.S. District Judge Timothy L. Brooks' ruling states if Act 689 went into law, it would violate the First Amendment. Lawmakers passed the Social Media Safety Act back in 2023. It required that users of a social media site provide identification to verify their age, as well as require minors to get parental consent. State Attorney General Tim Griffin said he respected the ruling, but hadn't yet decided whether to appeal. Well, for the third time, state lawmakers have said no to an appropriations bill to build a new state prison in Franklin County, but the Board of Corrections still pushing on whether with their plans for the facility. On Thursday, the board unanimously passed a schedule for approving contractors to build the prison. Veneer Construction has been confirmed as the managing contractor for the entire project. Other smaller contractors for design and engineering can also apply for specific roles. Any change to plans that would increase costs by $250,000 in the budget would need to be approved and voted on by the board. Meanwhile, the appropriations bill fell 8 votes short of passing in the state Senate again. While the fate of the proposed prison remains uncertain, there were still several bills that became law this week. Several of them aim to strengthen the healthcare workforce and make it easier for clinics, especially in rural areas, to keep up with demand. House Bill 1258 creates a state certification for community health workers, helping more people step into support roles in their communities. And Senate Bill 99 lets physician assistants delegate more tasks, giving clinics more flexibility to care for patients. Will lawmakers continue to look at bills affecting how canvassers get constitutional amendments on ballots, as well as choosing the ones they want to include? But there are now worries about the money that influences the campaigns once those questions actually make it on the ballot. Rebecca Brown introduces us to the new legislation, hoping to close a foreign funding loophole.
It only proves further our point that this is an issue that needs to be addressed. It is a real concern at the national level and at the state level.
As the general legislative session nears its end, new legislation is emerging. Republican Representative Mindy McAlinden is pushing for even stricter restrictions for the ballot initiative process.
Under federal law, foreign nationals cannot give to candidates to influence elections, but there is a loophole that doesn't apply to ballot measures. And as a result, foreign funds are influencing ballot measures in Arkansas and across the country. And that's why I filed HB 1837.
The bill was unveiled on Monday during a press conference with Secretary of State Cole Jester, who's fully backing the legislation.
In Arkansas, if you are a wealthy foreign national, we welcome your tourism, we welcome your friendship, but our Constitution is not for sale. And as long as I am your Secretary of State, it never will be.
Jester says the example of why he feels it's time to act is an incident in 2018 regarding the Minimum Wage Act.
We think it should be Americans funding it, not people from Switzerland. And pretty much the way they've been doing it is through different shell groups. Vice, he donates to a group called the 1630 Fund. which is overseen by a group called Arabella Advisors. They spend money across the country in ballot initiative races. I think there's been one in Arkansas, and we have reason to expect more to come.
Jurnee McAlinden says moving forward, there will be disclosure requirements.
You have to certify that you are not accepting money from a foreign donor over $10,000. If you did, then that would be fraud, and it would be handled as fraud. It's normally handled as well. It gives the Attorney General the ability to take action.
At the Capitol, Rebecca Brown, THV 11 News.
Immigration attorneys and their clients across Arkansas are facing new challenges as several ICE offices have stopped allowing in-person check-ins. Jose Carranza visited the offices in Northwest Arkansas, changing their plans and adding more work to the offices here in Little Rock.
With a pink sheet taped to a door, immigrants are finding out they must travel further for their regular check-ins with Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The sign in Fort Smith reading, "We are no longer taking appointments or check-ins at this office, and all appointments and check-ins are now to report to the Little Rock, Arkansas office."
The offices that are closing are just the Immigration and Customs Enforcement offices. Okay. And they're not closing their operations, they're just closing to the public.
For years, immigrants in removal proceedings have been required to check in regularly at their local ICE office. Now, those affected must travel to Little Rock on the first Wednesday of each month.
No one knows it all. I've not been provided with any context. To my knowledge, none of my colleagues, and we speak on a fairly regular basis, have been given an explanation as to why this is happening.
Immigration attorney Nathan Bogart says he is concerned about the impact this change will have on his clients, many of whom now face hours of travel for routine check-ins.
Depending on where you live, it could be 2 to 3 hours to get to Little Rock. Certainly from Fayetteville, it's almost 3 hours, and that's a long drive for people to make on a fairly regular basis.
So far, these notices have only been found outside the Fayetteville and Fort Smith offices. U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services office in Fort Smith, which handles residency and citizenship processes, will remain open.
It's going to be harder for attorneys to attend to their clients. It's going to be harder for clients, many of whom may not be eligible yet for a driver's license or other paperwork to get down to Little Rock. It's just kind of another one of those barriers that's being created for people to have access to the system.
Bogart says despite these challenges, it's crucial for immigrants to continue meeting their obligations and attending check-ins as required.
Definitely continue to respect their check-in dates. We know that ICE in Little Rock, from the information we've been told, is not going to see people on any day aside from the first Wednesday of the month.
Immigration attorneys are advising their clients to speak with legal counsel about their specific situations and to make arrangements to attend the Little Rock check-ins. Well, controversy continues over ShotSpotter in Little Rock. Earlier this week, the city board passed a vote to renew the contract with the company that makes the gunshot detection devices. But that vote came after a hotly contested meeting featuring protests, including at least one person being escorted out. Catherine Rowley was inside the meeting and shows us how we got here.
Surveillance is not safety. Surveillance is not safety.
In February, the city struck down a renewal with ShotSpotter, but a month later, that vote was expunged. That contract now back on the agenda. But before a vote, critics of the contract and those for it got their chance at the mic.
I don't believe we should make the choice between prevention and getting justice for families.
But let's be clear. Even ShotSpotter's own contract admits it does not prevent shootings.
The Little Rock Police Department has been using ShotSpotter since 2018, but Tuesday night, community members called for more patrols instead of ShotSpotter.
Because it's an inaccurate gunshot detection system, it's one that we should not reconsider.
Some community members also mentioned that they did not want the system because they believe the technology does not and has not prevented the gun violence the city is seeing.
But a computer and a camera ain't gonna do nothing. They're not gonna an inanimate object can't do nothing. Only we can.
But one resident had one main question about the software.
Are the best use of our limited public funds?
Well, staying in the city of Little Rock, no one wants to start a new day still sleepy after being kept awake by neighbors' loud music or a barking dog. But if it's happened to you, you're not alone. Karen Fuller verifies what people in the capital city can do to get some shut-eye and keep the peace.
Most Little Rock neighborhoods are peaceful during the daytime. People may be at work, kids are at school, and people are going about their business. THV 11 viewer Vanessa wants to know if there are any protections in place in the city that ensure the nighttime hours are just as peaceful. She asks, is it true that the city of Little Rock has rules on loud noises? Vanessa, let's verify. Our sources are the City of Little Rock Ordinance Codes, the Little Rock Code Enforcement Division, and a policy update with changes to the noise nuisance section. Legal experts advise handling a dispute with a neighbor by starting with a friendly conversation. Maybe your neighbor is a heavy sleeper and isn't aware how much noise their dog is making, or maybe they fall asleep to loud music. A conversation is a good first step. If it goes nowhere and you're still losing sleep, documenting the noise with a cell phone or even a decibel recorder will give you direct evidence of the problem should you need it later. Some neighborhoods may have a homeowners association you could contact, or the noisy neighbor may have a landlord you could appeal to. To clarify the rules, THV 11 did some digging into the city's list of ordinances and found one that addresses noise specifically. Section 1852 spells out noises that are generally prohibited. You can see the list is long, and both loud music and noise from animals are on the list. So we can verify that yes, the city of Little Rock does have rules against noises that disturb the peace. It also has a rule on nighttime quiet hours, prohibiting residents from causing loud noises beginning at 10:30 p.m. lasting until 7 a.m. the next morning. An exception was made a few years ago, but only for the River Market entertainment venues where the cutoff time is midnight. Penalties for violating a city ordinance range from a fine of up to $1,000 and in some cases jail time of up to a year or both.
Well, if you need help with a noisy neighbor, you can call the capital city's 311 hotline to file a report, and code for enforcement officer will take it from there. You can also file a noise complaint through the Little Rock Police Department. We're back after this. Well, work on the new Fire Station 9 is underway, 2 years after it was destroyed by the EF3 tornado that tore through Little Rock. Leaders gathered on Monday, the anniversary of that storm, to break ground on the new facility. It's set to be completed in the spring of 2026. Now, that fire station will have a feature that will help them the next time a disaster strikes, a tornado shelter. Brooke Buckner spoke with fire crews who were there on March 31st about what they remember and how they're building back stronger and smarter than ever.
2 years ago, this lot looked a lot different. What is now rocks and rubble used to be Fire Station 9. After the tornado destroyed it, the Little Rock Fire Department started drawing up plans to rebuild. But this time, they're including a tornado shelter.
And they saw it come over that mountain and said, I think it's going to go right by us. And they said, it's coming right at us.
Firefighters are used to thinking and moving fast in high-stress situations, but nothing could have prepared the crew at Fire Station 9 for March 31st, 2023.
There was about 60 seconds, maybe 67 seconds of time, maybe less than that, and the building was just ransacked.
Despite taking a direct hit, their commitment to their community didn't stop.
The garage doors became an issue. We couldn't open them. The guys did what they did. They hooked up chains and drug them off. So they were able to get the trucks out and go serve.
This is Station 9 before the tornado, built 4 decades ago. It didn't have its own storm shelter, but that's about to change. The International Building Code requires schools and places that house critical emergency operations in the 250 mile/hour zone to include storm shelters when they're built.
I'm not familiar when the standard was initiated. I do know that the last 2 fire stations we built, Station 23 and 24 both, have had tornado shelters integrated into the design and construction of the building. So there was no question we were going to do it in this building as well.
A welcomed upgrade after a traumatic day. Now, the Little Rock Fire Department is looking at other fire stations that don't have a shelter.
With the older stations, they are a challenge. We've got a number of things going on right now that looking down the road that we're going to be addressing within those stations. And of course, with the older stations come certain obstacles and hurdles you have to overcome. So we're taking it as a case-by-case basis.
It's a similar conversation happening around the city and across the state.
There's definitely been an uptick from the Little Rock tornadoes. We get a lot of local calls.
Whether it's a home or business, Jimmy Smith with Tornado Shelter Systems says he's seeing more and more people installing them.
Inside a tornado shelter, there's of course minimal risk of injury, so anybody that had any type of injury would have been safer inside a shelter, of course.
It's why Smith recommends everyone have one.
These shelters are made of 3/16 steel on the outside skin. The tubular frame inside is all 1/4 inch 2x2 square tubing, and the base plate is a 3/8 angle iron.
He says each shelter is strong enough to withstand an EF5 tornado, and if one hits and your house is leveled,
this will be the only thing left on the slab.
With severe weather season in full swing, Smith and Durham urge every Arkansan to have a plan if and when a tornado hits, just like Station 9 firefighters did that day. Now, with an even safer spot to go to in the future, at a place that still feels like home.
They're already making plans on where the cornholes are going to be and the horseshoes and this, and we've made arrangements for TV connection on the outside of the building on the little patio outside the kitchen, and a ceiling fan. Just give them an outdoor space so they can just kind of enjoy and relax a little bit.
Until duty calls.
Back in the community, ready to serve again.
For Wake Up Central, I'm Brooke Buckner.
Rebuilding also continues across the river. A large cross at Crystal Hill Assembly of God in North Little Rock came down when the tornado rolled through that day. After the break, the piece that's now being restored. Well, 2 years after the March 31st tornado, there are still reminders of the devastation and recovery that is still happening across Central Arkansas. A church in North Little Rock is still in the process of rebuilding a longtime landmark. Brooke Buckner shows us what they're doing and why the mission is so important to them.
If you've driven on Interstate 40 in North Little Rock, you may have seen a tall cross peeking over the tree line. That is until the strong winds on March 31st did some major damage to the iconic cross at Crystal Hill Assembly of God.
It had been here for over 30 years. But anyway, in the process of replacing the cross, trying to fix it, it really wasn't repairable. So we kind of have started from scratch.
This crew from Mississippi is replacing the 50-foot cross with the 120-foot one. Church member Tony Runyons tells me it will be much stronger than the last one.
This one's built to survive the storms.
And will stand out better than before.
The trees had grown so much before that you could only see it westbound. You couldn't really see it eastbound unless you knew when to look. But anyway, I think that we'll get above the pines this time and have a view for years to come.
Members of the congregation are leaving their mark on the cross before it's all finished.
We've invited people to come and sign the base of the cross. Just a neat thing for years to come, especially some of the young people. They can look up and say, hey, I signed that cross.
Crews will continue working on it the rest of the week, but there's still more to do once the cross is finished.
We've got a lot of landscaping. We've got to do the concrete I'm standing on now will be gone, and we're going to level this out and build a retaining wall and just do some other things to make it look nicer.
And they're hoping to get more donations to make it happen.
We think it's going to be good.
In North Little Rock, Brooke Buckner, THV 11 News.
Well, in the future, the church plans to have services by the cross. Everything won't be done in time for Easter, but they plan to have one next year. They expect to finish the cross itself on April 8th. That is it for the weekend wrap up. We'll see you next week.